Hello guys, welcome to Inspirational Explorer. In this tutorial video, I'll be walking us through the introduction to the Adobe Illustrator. In case this is your first time of visiting Adobe software, working with their app, rather, this is a good guide for us to walk through. In case you didn't go through the previous tutorial video on Adobe that I've created so far, such as Adobe After Effects, Adobe Photoshop, this is also a good start. Remember that this is not a theoretical class, so I will be going in depth into some theoretical aspects. This is more of a practical class, so I won't want to take much of our time in explaining some certain things. If this is your first time of visiting Adobe Illustrator, you should have an interface like this. However, if yours is different, that's because we are on different plan. This is a paid plan, and some of us might be on the free plan, so it might be a bit different from what you are seeing right now. And probably because you've not opened any file recently, so you might not see any of this right here. Under this new file, we'll come back to new file and open file later. Right now, we are on the home tab. This is where we have everything you are seeing right here that you can see right here. For this, we have learn. Probably you want to learn something new that Illustrator just added, or some practical examples. You have to be connected to the internet to access that. Once you click on it, you should have everything that you need to learn right here, tutorials, all of that you want to work through. Then you see it, you explore. Here is where my files are. Probably I have any file. I'm seeing this because I'm not connected to the internet. If I have the internet connected, I should see some of my files that are saved on cloud. If there's any files, share with me as well. I should see it right here. If there's any file that I recently deleted, I should see it right here. Back to home. Currently, I have this view, the grid view. I can always change it to list view if I want it to be on list view. It is left to me, it's optional. This is field tab whereby I can easily search for any of my recent file. For instance, if I want to search for vector, I just click on this and search for vector. Then it's going to automatically bring any file that has vector that just right there. For the recent file, I can decide to make it ascending or descending order. That's the way it works. For the name as well, I can decide to switch it to the way I want. Probably I want it alphabetical, or I just leave it the way it was initially. Now back to business. Let me start with the open. If I click on open file, this open is going to take me right to my files that are on my system that I can easily open. Any file that is acceptable by Illustrator, I easily bring it in, such as Illustrator file, EPS file, and picture, JPEG, PNG. I can easily bring it into Illustrator file. If I click on this right now, so any file that I have there that is acceptable in Illustrator, I can automatically bring them in our previous practical test. If there's any Illustrator file or any picture I want to bring in, for instance, if I click on this and just click open, if it's acceptable by Illustrator, it's going to automatically open it. Then I can just fit it down here to screen. You can decide to transform it and work with that. But for now, I'll just close this because I'm not working with this for now. To create new file, I'm going to click on new file. Then I have this interface. I won't be doing a detailed explanation because I already have a detailed explanation of how all of this work in one of my previous tutorial video in Photoshop. So in case you need a link to that, check the description below. It's going to take you through how I explain how each of these work. However, I'll just do a run-through explanation on this. Right here, we have the recent, whereby anything you recently create is right there. Then you work with it. Over here, we have saved. Probably I have a preset saved. You just have it right here. You can find it and just make use of it. For the mobile screen, if you want to design for screen, over the time, previous time, some people use Illustrator for their website design. Yes, instead of having to go to Figma or Sketch or any of the recent software that we have for designing for web, some people just make use of Illustrator to do that. It's a very powerful tool and useful tool for creating stuff like that. You can just choose the format you want and just work with it. For web, we have also the layout that you can work with for web page, decide kind of layouts that you want. For print, we also have various options right here. If for letter, print large, we also have templates that you can work through, probably for your business cards, stuff like that. For films and video, you have options that you can also work through as well. Art and illustration, you want to work with any art or you want to do an illustration, you now have templates that you can also work with. Well, let me raise that observation that this is Illustrator 2024. So some things might be different from the one you are working with currently. This is where you also get free templates that you can easily work with, work on, and just do whatever you want. Without any further ado, let's get started. Back to recent. I'm just going to work with any of these templates that is here currently, just to show you example of what I'll be doing. Right here, this is where you name your document, whatever name you want to give it. I might just want to give this example one. And this is where you set the width and height. Consider the length from here to here to be the width, this horizontal line, the straight one, while the length from here to here to be the height. That is how it works. The length from here to here is the height. Back to business. For the width and height, I can decide to work with this, but I love to work in pixels or in inches. So therefore, I will just change this to pixels. It is left to your preference. You can decide to work with feet, you can decide to work with centimeters or meters, but then I just love to work in pixels. I will change this to 1080 by 1080 pixels for the width and height. Once I have that done, the artboard, you can decide the number of artboards that you want. I'm going to show us a practical example of what artboard is. I think I explained that in Photoshop while I was explaining how it works, but I'll just do a practical example for the sake of those that do not know how these things work. And I can decide to create bleed. I can decide to create using maybe like, let's say 3 pixels, or I can decide to even increase it more to say maybe 6 pixels, depending on what I want. I will see practical example of how these things work. For you to change your bleed, probably proportionately, you don't want it to go proportionately, you want to give it individual width and height for the bleed. You can just click on this, it will detach. So the moment I increase this, it's going to increase alone, it's not going to increase together. So that's why it's there. But I love to link it and just leave it the way it was. For the color mode, since we are designing for screen, you want to change it to RGB. RGB is red, green, and blue. I said I will not be going into the explanation. Please check the description below to get exactly what I'm explaining. I'm just going to change it to RGB. Yes, you might get a notification. That's because we are changing from a different document. You see that this was A4. So we are changing from the previous document. So it's going to give you this notification error that it doesn't match, but just leave it the way it is. I'm going to change this back to 72 pixel. That's for screen. However, you can also work with 300 resolution. That's because we don't really constrain creativity. Yes, but a standard design, you use 72 ppi high for your design, while you use 300 ppi high for print. Your preview mode, you can decide to set it to print or pixels in anyone you want. You can decide to work with it, either pixels or over print, or you just leave it as default. For more settings, here you have option to just do everything we just did right here. Just work with flexibility around it. There's not much detail here that you want to work with. The profile color, you can decide to change the profile color here from print to mobile, from mobile to web, from web to whatever you want to work with. Since I'm not using any of this, I'm just going to cancel it for now. Then let's create our document. I'm going to click on this, print. Then we have it right here. Now you can see the bleed outside here. The red line is the bleed line, showing us that anything outside here should be cut off. So I said I'm going to show us difference between this and any other one that I will be creating. So let me go to File, under File, and click on New. Right here, this is the one we just worked on. Let me now change the bleed option to, let's say, 3. And let me have artboard selection of 2 to 3. I'll click on Create. You see that we now have repeated frames, unlike this that we just have one. So right here we have varieties of frame. I can zoom in just to see what is going on right there. You now see that the bleed is a bit closer compared to this that is a bit farther. See that this is 6, this is 3. So that's how it works. But we'll get back to all of this explanation in detail later. For now, just work with a blank locomate without bleed, nothing. Then how we curate this. With this right here, now we have the real business. I'll be walking us through these options that we see right there. Should the case your own is this way, don't worry. You can always set it that way by just clicking on this, just toggle this, then you have it the way we have it right there. Right here, we have the selection tool. The moment you click on it, it's going to show you exactly what it works for and what the shortcut is. You can see the shortcut right here, this small one, V. This is what the object is called. Let me show us the difference between selection tool and direct selection tool. In order to do this, I'm going to open one of my recent file. I'm going to click on File, Open, Recent File. Then I'm just going to bring it in. Right here, we have a smart mockup. Let's say I select this. It's not going to give me the flexibility to select individual. In case you want to see what is going on right here, let me change the view option, my workspace. Let me just leave it at essential. Right here, you see my layers. You see that we have the all of this selected, and I don't have the flexibility to select individual layers. In order to correct that, that's where this direct selection tool comes in. Let me select outside and select specific. You see that it's different from when it selects it all. Like I'm clicking this, it's clicking just a specific layer. I can delete that specific layer and just work around the specific layer that I just selected. But with direct selection tool, I don't have the flexibility of that. It selects the whole object in that layer as they are grouped. So for instance, if I click on this as well, it's going to select the background. If I click on this, it's going to select all the objects that are grouped in this layer. That's how it works. It does not leave room for a specific selection. That's why we have the direct selection tool that gives us the flexibility. And the shortcut is A. You can see that A. That's what it does. It gives you the flexibility to work around the object right there. I'm going to close this and just get back to where we stopped. Back to business. Well, let me work with this essential for now. To change your workspace, this is what you should do. Once you click on Windows, you come to the workspace and you have different options for your workspace. You select the one that you want and you work with them. For this, we call it the pen tool. It's basically one of the tools that we'll be working with in Illustrator. You need it for most of your creativity, most of the things you'll be creating in Adobe Illustrator is to make your workflow easier. And you have to always set it to stroke so that when you are drawing, you can easily see what is going on right there. Let me just control click and just release it. For instance, we will notice that when we were on this view workspace, we have varieties of option wide open to us. You can see we have this option. We have varieties of options that open to us, right? But when we came back to this very particular one, it seems like we have limited option available. To undo that, you can always select the kind of workspace you want. You can select the things that are visible. For instance, if I click on control now, you see that it's going to bring back some of the features right here. If you are working with Adobe Illustrator 2024 for the first time, you might have this option available, this contextual task bar. In order to take off the contextual task bar, what you have to do is to click on it. But then, if I click on this, you see that you have the contextual task bar visible with your option, move to option selected, your selection option selected. So in order to get rid of this, so it doesn't, get into your workspace all over the time, you can just take it off by clicking on this. So that is how the pen tool works. The pen tool follows the instruction you give to it. If I click on this, holding shift down, and click on this, holding shift down as well, and also click on this, holding shift down. I have a rectangle, though it's not perfect, but you get the idea of what I just did right there. If I click this, you're going to see what it just created. So that's how it works. Um, just to get further, let me show us the difference between the pen tool, the shortcut is P, and the curvature tool. You can always take a preview of how these things work. So if I click on this, the curvature tool is going to give us the flexibility to create angle point. I don't have to hold and drag. Unlike the pen tool, when I was with the pen tool, I have to click on a point, then come right here, click on the point, then decide how I want it curved. Release it, then have to probably hold Alt and select the point, create a new account point, work with these, and just start creating different kind of concepts all around. And at times you just have to manually make it smooth and all of that. But for the curvature tool, once I have the curvature tool right there, and just click from this point to this point, then this point, you see that it automatically drag and give us something like circle to this point and this point. It's going to give us kind of a round shape. It's not limited to a round shape, but I'm just showing us how it works. You can also click this point, then come to this point and just say that you want something like this, like an hack. You can also control click. Once you click on control and click, it will deselect what you previously selected. You can see that, right? For this polygon tool, it's called shape tool. We have different kind of shape right here. We have the rectangle tool, which the shortcut is M, whereby we can easily create a rectangle, just as I was trying to create with the pen tool the other time. Always have your stroke on your object so that when you are creating, you'll be able to see exactly what you have right there. You can decide to increase the stroke width. I can decide to give it 2 width. You see that it will be a bit different from every other stroke, right? That's because I've increased the width of the stroke. Then I can undo this and just leave it at 1. Then you see that it's the same with every other width that we have right here. For the brush tool is used for painting. For instance, if I have any color selected and I click on the paint brush, I can easily come right here and start painting. That's because we have it on stroke currently. So it's giving us that stroke feel, that stroke structure for painting. We have varieties of options right here that we can just work with. The blob brush, the pencil tool. We get back to all of this and see how they work in other tutorial video going forward. You have the option to work on the fidelity, the fill new brush, the edit the selected part, the within, whatever you want to do. All you just have to do is to double click on it, then it will bring the option for you to adjust this. We'll get back to this later. For the text tool, obviously it's for creating text. By now, I believe those that will be following the graphic design class should know exactly how we use the text tool to just create anything that we want to create. Just type in there, then you have the option to change your text right here. We have character, decide the kind of font you want to use in your design. I can decide to use this and give it some kind of, probably I want it bold or, thin or regular. Then I just click on this. I have the option to set it to whatever variation I want to set it to. I can click on this as well just to change it. Instead of clicking on that drop down right there, I can decide to make it any kind of, you can always have a preview of it. Let me make this font multi-card. To change the size of the font, I'm going to click on this and just probably bring it up to 72. Just let me place it right here. So once I click on this and I start previewing, you begin to see the kind of form, the kind of shapes that it takes. You can also change your fonts going forward to any font you want to work with that you love, the concept, the idea, whatever it is that you prefer. You can keep scrolling to have any of these fonts that you love so much. To get rid of any of the objects, always go back to either your selection tool or your direct selection tool, anyone you want to work with, and just click on it, then delete. Same thing with your direct selection tool. If I click on this and select this, I can delete. One of the interesting things and the difference between selection tool and the direct selection tool is that the selection tool gives you a kind of transforming option. For instance, if I click this, you see that I have the flexibility to increase the width or height or expand it the way I want. But if I click on direct selection tool, it gives me the anchor point selection. If I click on this, I'm going to see the entire anchor point that I just worked with. I can flexibly adjust this fit to whatever I want to do and just give it a kind of blob effect. You get things like this and just bring it the way I want. Still with the direct selection tool, if I click on any of these, I can easily adjust the handle as well. You see, once I have this, I have the option, the flexibility to adjust the handle. You can click outside to see exactly what you've done. Once you have the direct selection tool, it does not give you the flexibility to move objects. Rather, it gives you the flexibility to move each of the anchor points that was created. It decides the pixels in each of the design. If I zoom in further, you see all the points that we have in this. If I click on this vector, I'm going to start dragging this and we start having the option to work with it and play around just that simple way. That's the way it works. Let me just set this to fit and Control Z all what I've done so far. All right, so I'm going to select these guys and delete them. Yes, how I did that was once I click on this, I'm going to click on Shift on my keyboard. I will hold Shift, then click on this, then have it deleted. That's just it. Right here, we have the rotation tool. For instance, if I have any of these objects selected, let me select this object and I'm just going to click on the rotation. It's going to show us the anchor points. Let me zoom in for you to see. The anchor point is currently at the center. If I move the anchor point down here, you see that it automatically changed the position of the anchor point. If I click right here, it's going to bring the anchor points right here. I don't know whether you're seeing that. Let me zoom in more. You can see that we have the anchor point right here. So the moment I start rotating this, it will rotate at where the anchor point is located. Now, if I hold and drag this, it will just rotate from this point down to this point. That's because I've fixed the anchor point at that position. If I set the anchor point back to the center, and I rotate this, you see that it rotates from the center. So that's how easy the anchor point works. This is shape builder. I'm going to show us exactly how the shape builder works. Let me move all of this to one side and just probably reduce the size a bit more by holding down shifts. It's going to adjust it proportionately. With this web position, I'll just highlight this and hold down the Alt key and drag this down here. I'm going to bring each of these objects together just for proper viewing. Let's say this way. Then I will bring this also. Then with all of this selected, I'm going to highlight them together, which is going to group all of them. I might just want to get rid of the fill in each of them. Just take away the fill. Then let me work with the stroke for now. I'm going to select the shape builder tool. With the shape builder tool, I'm going to come right here and begin to create parts. Let's say I'm just going to hold this together. You see what's happened? It gets rid of everything that intersected with it. If I still want to get rid of more, I'm going to highlight it. Always make sure it is first highlighted by just dragging, make sure the selection tool is selected or the direct selection, either of it, any of it works. I'm just going to highlight this. Once I have it highlighted, I'm going to click the shape builder tool again. Let me zoom in more and just highlight this. Let's see, is there still any intersection? Let's see this as well. I think with this, everything is done. You see that it just created a kind of design, a kind of pattern. Well, let me do more practical example for you to get an insight of what I'm talking about. I'm going to click on this shape. I'm going to select the circle. I will hold down shift while dragging my circle. I'll create another circle right here. I'll create another one right here. Just make sure there is intersect. they have to be intersection for it to work fine. Otherwise, it won't work perfectly. Let me adjust this more. I think this should be fine by me. Now I'm going to select the shape builder tool. Before you select the shape builder tool, always make sure that everything is selected or the part you want to get rid of. For instance, if I click on this, nothing is happening. But if I have this and this selected and I select the shape builder tool, you see what is going to happen between the tool now. You see that, and it's keep creating that. The reason why this is not working is because I do not have the three selected. In order to correct that error, I'm going to select the all three. Highlight it. Then I'll select the shape builder tool and I'll just move in. As you'll see right there, it's going to get rid of all the intersection. We still have option to get rid of this as well. And we have something like this, like the cloud. You can still adjust it if you want. You still have various anchor points that you can work with. So work on any of these parts. I'll just double click on this. Then I have the option to just adjust it in or out, or select the option that I want and make it just the way I want it to be. You see, that's where you just play around with your object and do whatever you like with it. You can also rotate it and just give it any perspective, any view you love. So far, we have something like this with our option to, we are going to do more practical example whereby every of these segments that I just explained will be better explained, will be well explained. I'm going to move this as well and just move this. So you see that the moment I moved this, every part that can be deleted is being separated. Let me show you that. You see, every part that can be deleted in this, it's being separated. We have them on a separate layer. If I click this drop down, you will see what's going on in this part. You see, we have this ones separate in their own layer. They are not grouped. This one is grouped, while these ones are not. In order to group them or move them in group, I can just move this. I like it, then move it to where I want it to be, or I just get rid of those ones that I don't want by deleting them. Now to the gradient tool. The gradient tool works for color. For instance, if I create a circle, I don't need a stroke for that. For now, I'm just going to create a circle. Let me give it orange fill. Then hold down shift while drawing and drag. You always remember that with this circle created, I'm going to select the gradient tool. With the gradient tool selected, I'm going to click on this and you have your gradient point. You can decide to move the gradient point this way, or just adjust it further, whichever way you want. To change the color, once you click on this, you can double click on it. Then you have the option to change the fill. You can decide to work with this and just come right here as well. Double click on it, then decide to change the fill to whatever you want. With that selected, you have your gradient just right there. For the dimension tool, I won't be speaking much on this for now. And for the fill tool is used to fill color. Let's say I want to fill this color, this current object selected. Always make sure the current object is selected. Otherwise, it won't have any fill. And I click on white, it's going to automatically change it to white. If I click on this, it's going to change to black. That's how the fill tool works. For instance, if I want this our object that we created to have this fill color, I'm just going to select it and select the eyedropper tool. For the eyedropper tool, the shortcut is I. Once you click on this, you have the shortcut right there. You can see that I. If I click on this, it's going to fill this with the same gradient color, the way this has. If I click on black, it's going to fill it with black, just that simple way. If I select this as well, let me go back to V for selection tool and click on the eyedropper tool and select the color that we have right here currently. It's going to fill it with the same gradient fill, just the way to steal color from one object to another. All right, with this created, I'm just going to move on to the next process of the design. We have the blend tool, although I will explain this going forward. Let me work more with more options. I'm just going to click on this for us to see more options right here. Where I will want to work with my Windows workspace. I go to Essential Classic. Under Essential Classic, I have varieties of options right here. For scaling up, with this, if I click on scale and just drag this, it's going to scale it to the direction which I'm pointing at. You can see that it's giving us kind of feel like this kind of vibe. I can decide to scale it this way as well. I can decide to just bring it this point. It keeps scaling it up. But you can always work with transformation to scale it even more correctly. The transformation tool will make it more better. For the width, this adds width to design and it gives it more width. For instance, if I select this and make it come to this point, you see that we have more depth of width right here. It is extended. You can see the feel, you can see the width. This is what the width works for. It expands the width. You can see that you can change it, you can move around it and just work right there the way you want it to be, or your scope of work inside here. This is looking like something big. You can even make it more perfect by adjusting the anchor point and work around that. Okay, so with this created, let's work with the next option. For the free transform, this will work more where we have shifting objects to work with. When we start creating our illustration, then we just work around this and give it something interesting, more interesting perspective. I know you can't wait to see that. For the shape builder, we've spoken about that. This perspective grid, we'll speak more about this later. This is called Shaper. Let's see how Shaper works. I'm going to click on this. Instead of having to draw the shapes or having to select the object to draw the shape, I can easily just create 3 points and it will create the shape that I need. You see that perfectly. If I drag this way, it's going to give me circle, a perfect circle. I can link these two together by just shading around this tool. You see that it automatically did the work of direct select. Sorry, did I just say direct selection tool? I made the shape builder tool exactly what the shape builder tool did for us. I can create more option right here and just give it this and also create a path along. You see that exactly the perspective that we are looking for. It gives it the stroke, it gives the feel. You can get rid of any of these stroke and feel if you don't want them in there. To get rid of the stroke and fill, make sure everything is highlighted, then come right into fill, then or right here and just or check this, click on this and just have it that way. Let me reposition this to this point and just have it right there. Okay, with all of this created, all this jargon, design and all of that, we've come this far. So introducing us to Illustrator and how it works. We can work more on all these tools and just keep going on and on and on. We have the slice tool that we use to slice objects. We get more to that when we begin to illustrate. We have the hand tool where we used to move the Canva around. We have the artboard whereby we can create more artboards just as we want. Just duplicate the artboard and work more with more of artboards as we please. I'm going to fit this to screen so we can see how far we've come. Right here, I said I was going to explain briefly how it works. You can check up the tutorial video that I said is in the description below to have a detailed explanation of how this works. Right here, we can walk through any of this process by just saving it. For instance, if I want to save this now, I'm going to click on save. I'm going to save on my system. I can decide to save it to cloud, or I would love to just show us how to save it on a local device. Right here, I'm going to name it example 1 illustration. Then I decide the kind of format I want it to be. You can decide to make it Adobe Illustrator. You can decide to make it EPS. You can decide to make it AIT, Illustrator template, SVG file, which is for web, SVG compressed. I'll just go to leave it as AI, Adobe Illustrator. You can use artboard. Since we don't have much artboard, I'm just going to leave it just this way. It's just one that is there. I'm going to click on save. You have this option right here. I will advise you can create a PDF compatible file and also make sure the color profile is embedded in it. It is left to you though. Use compression is left to you as well, just to make the file smaller. Then I'm going to hit OK. With this done, my file is saved. You can decide to save as. Probably you want to save it as. You don't want it to be saved this correct file. You make some kind of adjustment and you don't want to interrupt the previous file that you have. You just save it as. And if you want to save a copy, probably you want to work on this, on the entire design, different design, and you want to save a copy. You don't want this initial design to be interrupted or destructed, or you don't want it anything to affect it. Just click on save a copy, then you have it saved. I'm going to explain more in details later. You can check your version history here, everything you've been working on so far. You can see that the version history of cloud document will show here, but it's not on cloud, so it's not showing any of the options right here. You have every other option that I feel should not be difficult for us to understand right here, provided we see the previous tutorial video that I say that is in description below. Here is how we have the option to, under edit, we have the option to do some certain kind of editing, like we want to undo some things, we want to redo, we want to cut, we want to copy, we want to paste. So just simple command prompts that you can easily remember are all right here, that you just click on them and work with them. And some other advanced options that we will be working with going forward. Objects, this is where you decide how to arrange your objects. Probably you want to bring it forward, backward, transform, you want to align them, you want to distribute them. Everything that you should work with right there, you have it. Yeah, probably you want to create some certain things that you need to create, clipping marks, which we'll talk about more later. We have type. This is where we talk about the font type and all of that you want to do in your design. You get to work with it right here. We have select. This is where you select some certain part of the object. You select all. You select active, bold. You deselect, reselect, inverse, and all of that. We have the effects right there, whereby we make some certain effects on our illustration. This is where we get to add some certain kind of effect and more to it. This is view, things that are visible to you on your design space. You work with it right here and just change some certain things that you want to change. For instance, if I want to zoom in and zoom out, find artboard in Windows, fit artboard in Windows, sorry about that. And just all the simple command prompts that you can always work with is all right here. The Windows, just as I do see, is where you arrange your stuffs, your workspace, things that are visible on the workspace and things that you don't want visible on the workspace. This is where you get to do that. And this is where you get help from Illustration, Adobe itself. And that will be all for this tutorial video. Thank you so much for watching. Remember, if you have any question, you will to make use of the comment section and I will reach out to you. I'll give you the positive feedback that you need. See you in the next one.